Hello there. How are you doing, you beautiful spirit? You, good to see you. Your smiling face. Always a joy when you grace my place. And I am a poet and didn't know it. How about that? Welcome, everyone. How you doing? Good to see you. Hope everything is well. And that life is, well, good. As I said, I hope your spirit is digging it, enjoying the journey, whatever that journey may end up being. Your soul is, balanced, happy, and your body rejoicing in its existence. Celebrate the body, seriously. It's a marvelous piece of, I don't know, you can say engineering. I think that would be an appropriate term. So, how is everyone? I see Gemma's in here. Robert, good to see you. And Mark, Warrior Queen, how are you doing, my dear? Zank Frappy, good to see you. Wow, Franny, Queen of Courts, how are you doing? Karen, we got to get you back on, hon. Let's see, Autumn, boy, it's literally scrolling like this. So let me get my sea legs on. Chelsea Rose, so good to see you, my dear. Going to have Chelsea back on. Franny, how the heck are you? Celebration by sweating. There you go, man. Had someone send me an email, and I kind of chuckled because I've had a similar experience. And, the individual wrote that in their life, they met someone, a stranger, and just not by the purposeful touch, but just because of things that happen, their bodies touched, hands or whatever. And she said that was this most intense orgasm that was felt by both of them. I think she said she actually fell to the ground. And I went, well, now that is what I call electric sex. I mean, you don't have any of the prelims or any of the afterwards. Man, you just, by touch. Hey, I'm all for that. I ain't got no problem with that. I mean, so anyway, so good to see you as well. Let me just invoke favor on every one of you. It's the best way to go through life, favor in everything. And that's what, before I go live, that's what I do. I invoke favor upon all of you, that favor be found in abundance in your life, that there be nothing missing, nothing broken, that your spirit rejoices in the unionship of your soul and your body, and enjoy the journey, folks. We go to spooky movies, mysteries, because we love surprise endings. We love surprises. And even when those surprises are in dark circumstances. So, baby, let your light shine on and just smile, because you know what? There are other spirits. And when they see you coming, they're going to say, oh, yeah, I know, Mary. Yeah. Now, that is a spirit that's strong, knows who it is, and look at the joy and the light coming off it. I'm telling you, folks, regardless of how weird it gets, there's lots of stories we all can go. It's all stimulating. That's why those channels grow the way they do. We all like the unknown, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's what we do by nature. It's a game for us, folks. We're spirit beings. And eventually you're going to figure it out. You already know everything. But it's a game. Kind of like a game of hide and seek. And that's why we like it. We like it when we're scared. Why? Well, because it releases the adrenaline in us. And then that gives us a rush of endorphins, dopamines that come in. One of my favorite horror movies is the original version, by the way, the black and white, The Haunting. How many of you remember that? The black and white. And the reason why the black and white version was so well done is that it really didn't use special effects. It allowed your mind to really fill in the horror scene, of like being in the bedroom there in Hill House. And, you could see the door as it begins to pulsate in and out. And you get that sudden download of cold. And, you hear the footsteps that seem to be coming from the ceiling and the walls. Yeah. And there's nothing there but just the camera. Scare the crap out of you. And even the remake, I thought was pretty good. Catherine Zeta-Jones, Elam. So welcome, everyone. I know you got a lot of places you can be at, but thank you. Thank you for bringing your energy into the group and to the community. Our goal is just to be ourselves here and discover ourselves. And I thought we have a really good topic. So I want to share this with you real quick. I wrote this, and this is what really brought on today's topic. And we're going to read, I think we're on chapter 3 or 4. We are. Because it's all tied together. All right. We have changed. Our timeline has changed. Our history is being changed. Our reality was changed. This timeline is accelerating. Changes are reaching into our past history and changing our present reality. This has happened before, and the effects were devastating on our ancestors. It has happened again without most even knowing or realizing it happened at all. Each time, it has led to a species collapse. No memory, no understanding, no recall. An amazing story that could be written for us today because it has already been written many times. The past is the future, as is the future is the past reliving itself. It resets everything. The trap is sprung. That's what I get when I meditate. I write it down, and you can see it's where my spirit is journeying now. Allow me to share with the community here what happened this morning, because this was really, talk about spatial dimension, points of view. The spirit's complex. It's without time or space. And when it's immersed into space and time, it gets interesting. So here I am getting dressed, and I'm literally putting my socks on, right? And I hear this distinct voice inside, non-audible. Remember, when you become a spirit again, how is a voice going to speak to you? Most likely it's not going to be audible. It will be felt within. And this is where this voice was coming from. And it was the strangest conversation, because I was, in fact, having a conversation with myself. But in a way, we all talk to ourselves. It's quite amusing. we do this from the time we're in the womb. We do it when we first are introduced into the death cycle, and we do it all through our lives. And most likely when your time for departure is, and if it's a peaceful departure, if you start planning it now, it will be, you will be talking to yourself. I bet you didn't think about that, did you? So we know what that conversation feels like. We all do. We all experience it. This one was different. This one was different. So I need to probably back up to what brought this on. So once again, in the shower, I get into this state of consciousness, and, well, I won't get into the personal aspect of it, but I had to release a spirit. I had to tell that spirit it was time for it to go, that there wasn't anything more that it could do here, that the body that it possessed no longer had any energy. And I released this spirit. And I won't get into any more of that. And so now I bring up to the point where I'm literally putting on my socks. Right foot, by the way. And this voice, it's me, begins to have this conversation, unlike any conversation I've ever heard myself giving. And it was very revealing, how these things become. And I think that this is probably that evolution of us ever, I think, becoming more free. I'm convinced of it. And apparently, I'm really convinced of it because, so listen, I can't be the only one here, right? I mean, seriously, someone else raised their hand, I used to say, give me an amen, but screw that. I don't want you to ever have to say amen to anything again. If you're going to say anything, say your name. Can I get a Wayne Steiger? There we go. So invoking that favor on your life, nothing missing, nothing broken, full restoration of our memories, man. I think it's happening. Got a lot of great emails on the 10 points that your third eye is opening. Pretty cool, isn't it? Hi, Hadley. Good to see you. Robin, hello. Jerry, good to see you. By the way, I was on Brian's channel, Milky Way Weekly, last night. Go and watch that video I did this morning. It was great. Had a great time. Brian, it was far out. Got a lot of emails because a lot of people have since become a part of this community that haven't seen some of the prior work that I've done. And that one had a lot of surprises for a lot of people. And true helper. Well, there you go. I love it. I answered myself. I could tell you. I think that's how it's that old expression. Have you ever had hallway sex? That's where two couples pass each other in the hallway and they say, go coitus yourself. Yeah. So anyway, I digress. Oh, you have to laugh, children. You have to laugh. So let's get into some things here. Let's get into, I put another presentation together, and let me pull that up for everybody. And I think it'll get us kicked off right to where we want to go. I did a video recently, and you ought to go check it out because it's amazing how we're discovering a lot that I did in prior work is resurfacing itself, but in so many other diverse and eclectic paths that at the time I did this, it wasn't, well, wasn't something I was thinking about. The grays, I mean, we're talking about Ariel, are they real? Are they fake? Are they dolls that are just animated by an energy source that we don't understand? Is there a transference of consciousness into beings? Are they, in fact, actual bio forms? Don't know. It's, there is so much information that's been tagged to be disinformation that the disinformation has been tagged to been disinformation to been proven to be information. Hey, I'm not the assholes making this thing up. That's how they do it. Go back and look at my video, the playbook on the art of deception. That's one that will really get you in tune. So let's talk about the reptiles, the reptilians. Last night, Brian and I got into this in a very deep way. Are these our captors? Are these our lovers? Are these our grandparents? Are these us? They've been around much longer than the sapiens have. Are they, in fact, the regime, what has been termed in our reading the old regime? We so often want to brush off the ancestors as knuckle-dragging, hairy, almost ape-like. Anything but that. And when you look at what they left us, I call these messages in the bottle. It's something that we have to begin to understand that it's not just in one part of the world, it's in every part of the world. Our bodies, when you look on the likeness on percentage scale, we exceed 90+% in being more reptilian than Homo. That's a mouthful. But nevertheless, it can't be denied that our religion, our mythologies, our superstitions, our nightmares are probably well-founded. It would be hard for many of us to think that we were at one time and still are nothing more than ants, amusements, lower life forms that think that they're somehow ascended higher, that they really think that they got spirits. They really think that they got an afterlife. Because something in our past will not let go. Even with all the amnesia, spirit wiping, whatever it is they are doing, nevertheless, this cannot be erased. And no matter what religion you want to look at, it's all alien. Every god is an alien god. Every manifestation of an angel, a demon, is an alien. They're not terrestrial, so therefore it makes them extraterrestrial, or could very well be that they are interterrestrial. But nevertheless, the painters saw something. They were either given visions, activations, downloads, Hard to say. We're going to see what those purses are in our readings about Ariel. Many of you have read the PDF, you know already. I mean, this is most likely the creation chamber, the mythical tree of life. It is. Plenty of evidence for this. And when we begin to look at all the different diverse cultures separated by distance and by time, we see yet reoccurring images that haunt our spirits everywhere. The commonality cannot be denied, nor can the evidence that these came from the sky. Our ancestors knew. They did their best to depict what they saw. And again, they left the message in the bottle. It's just that we think we're too sophisticated, too educated, above what our ancestors saw. But saw they did everywhere. Everywhere. Solomon, who is said to be the wisest man who ever lived, in his book in Ecclesiastes, writes, "There is nothing new under the sun. There is nothing new," are you ready for this? "Known to man. That which was shall yet be again." It makes you wonder what's going on here. We now can understand that we're really no longer the only species. I think that's the hardest thing for many people in their awakening, is to realize we're not alone. And it's not we. There is no us. In the spirit realm, it is only the individual. And you may have a clan. Let us hope that is the case. You hope that is the case, because I can tell you, you don't want to pass through the veil, sweetheart, and you're sorry but being out there all by yourself, expecting someone to give you a lending hand. Just saying. So, we know we're not alone. Visitors, guards, scouts, hard to say. And it's just not the United States. These are actually from Russia. You can say, well, it's fake. Fine, I don't care. I'm just showing you what we see here. So this kind of brings up to the whole subject matter of, how we look today at our reality. And if, in fact, if something got screwed up in the quantum fabric of space-time, all we would begin to feel is the effects that we're feeling right now. Tonight on my radio show over on the artistfirst.com, Steiger Perspective, going to do a satirical look at planet Spango, and formerly known as Earth. Because, it's quite obvious that the idiots are running the planet, the morons. And I think all the bright people, I don't know, think they left. I think they got a new body. I think they got pushed out and the idiots are taking over. I mean, it's beyond belief when you begin to see it. And we see it here every day. You and I, we witness this stuff. Right now, folks, all of us are trying to make our community better. And many times it's a community of one. If you're living by yourself, listen, if you're happy with yourself, you don't need any distraction. I'm not saying that relationships are distractions, but still, I was a bachelor for 20 years. I didn't have a problem living by myself. I loved myself. Got to know myself. Boy, did I get to know myself. And now that I have another spirit that I walk with on a daily basis, it makes it even more exciting. But having said all that, as we try to enlarge that circle of light, so to speak, man, there's a lot of crazy people out there. I'm serious. There really are. It's nuts. So I want to share real quick just some few so here in the United States, this is just the tip of the iceberg. This thing going on in our government is getting now into some pretty weird territory. And this is what I told everybody back in December, what was going to happen. And it looks like it's going to happen. I hope they do something because this is not good for any of us. Those suffering from it and those of us who are going, would you just do your job? 38 million low-income Americans lose food stamps at the end of this month. 6 million face the uncertain timetable of collecting tax refunds. They say they're going to do it. 2 million without rental assistance. 800,000 paycheck federal employees. We have parks here in Colorado that are. The federal court system this is going to have a reverberating effect. It's just going on and on and on. I'll get more into this as we get it in on the radio show, but this is what's going on, folks. This is only adding to the fear and paranoia. I told you about this before, and I wanted to bring this up because, again, the Chinese, they're doing something, folks. Me not know exactly what, but the spidey senses are going, okay. Now, I have a real good friend. She cuts my hair, Julie. Hello, Julie. I know you and the other ladies there are listening. So, in fact, my wife had this. Physicians see a spike in patients with virus lasting a month or more. It's this cough, this ever chronic cough. And this one here in Texas, they're seeing a spike in such cases, according to the spokesman. It's a virus, different from the common cold, flu, or allergies, for that matter. And according to Dr. Gary Gross, who is on staff at the Texas Health in Dallas, it can last 4 to 6 weeks, maybe even longer. The cough is unusual in 2 respects. First, a lot more people have it. According to Gross, he is seeing at least 1 patient a day with the virus. For perspective, he usually sees 1 a week, tops. Second, it lasts longer. Usually, we see a person get a cough or a cold, and it will last for a week to 10 days. But this year, it's lasting for like 4 weeks, 6 weeks, and it just doesn't seem to get better. And there's no quick fix, according to the doctor. The virus must run its course, but there are always patients There are ways patients can manage the symptoms. I mean, I'm sure it has nothing to do with the crap that they're spraying up in the sky. I digress. I'll speak more of this on my show because this all comes into play here, folks. Story going around, mystery radio signals from deep space are detected. I don't know why people find this to be, that unusual. We're learning. The knowledge we have today was not available 20 years ago. And it shouldn't surprise anyone. I'm hoping that, these FRBs are not natural, but they're artificial. If they prove to be natural, then it shows me that this universe is more alive. By the way, let me give everyone an update on Patrick. Patrick has a gastrointestinal virus. It's really taken its toll on him. So let's just continue to send healing to Patrick, uphold him in our thoughts, and get better, my friend. Hoping he'll be back on next week. So anyway, many of us know this. I'm not from planet Earth. This one I just wanted to bring out. This is Sputnik News. It's weird. Apparently, people share their Netflix, other passwords to allow other friends, family to watch programming through these streaming services. Well, you're not supposed to do that. And apparently there's packages where you can share with family and friends. But this one I just thought was so funny because apparently they're running algorithms in the background. And if they see and detect an anomaly, then this AI goes out and hunts your butt down. Oh, man. Don't tell me just because they ain't got no bodies that they can't come out and mess with you. Yeah, AI everywhere. Hello. Oh, in Tokyo, it's gotten to the point now with all you listeners in Tokyo that are here in Japan, you probably have seen this. Gone are the real people. Bye. See ya. Don't let the door slam in your ass as you're walking out. Oh, here, get your hat while you're going because the robot's taking over. And apparently, humans have shown the most, how shall we say, peculiar way of adapting to non-sentient life, shall I say? Yeah, it's coming everywhere. This is usnews.com. This is one I thought was real interesting, and I'm going to do a show on this one. Scientists seek ways to finally take a real measure of pain. It's real interesting that the brain cannot remember pain. In fact, you can have your brain operated on while you're conscious. You can play a guitar, play a game. Your brain doesn't feel pain. But the pain is registered on the brain. Wow. Did I say that plain enough? Anyway, pain. What's some of the worst pain that you can remember experiencing? Two things for me: kidney stones and spinal meningitis. Now, you ladies that have given birth, you marvelous spirits of you, you're a creator. You know pain. We all know pain. But it's always funny because, not funny, it's, when they ask, because they're trying to determine, what your pain index is, it's all different for us. It really is. So imagine this, trying to find out what a pain index is. Right now, we just, give me a number between 1 and 10. And if you're in enough pain, you say something like serious. Don't do that. Doesn't go well with the doctor or the nurses. Folks, this is going to become, I think, one of the biggest explosive stories of 2019. I think you're going to see the collapse of a lot of what you see the titans today. It looks like in this class action lawsuit, I want to read you what, and you probably will be contacted by a soon to be class action law firm. And this is what the judge has heard. And the judge is apparently allowing this to go forward. It is said by the attorney, and one of the attorneys who is a superstar in only taking on class action cases, that he can win. The kind of mass data collection was not only allowed, but encouraged by Facebook. They wanted third-party developers developing all these different apps that they now have incorporated. You can't go if you're a Facebook user, you got a monkey on your back. Maybe going deeper, which sought to keep developers building on its platform and provided companies with all the tools they needed to influence and manipulate user behavior, states the March 23rd lawsuit filed by Edelson. That's because Facebook is not a social media company. It is the largest data mining operation in existence. They owe us money. And I believe that this is where it's going to end up in the highest courts, and these tech giants are going to run for the hills, because I believe the lawsuits are going to come against Google, against YouTube, against Facebook, all these social media companies that have been using your data, my data, and reselling it. They owe us. And that will bankrupt them. Because the user agreements have been proven to be fraudulently developed, where these media companies come back and say, well, no. They agreed to the end user agreement. Well, if that end user agreement was predicated on fraud and deception to begin with, it's invalid as far as a court in the United States is concerned. Facebook, you got problems. Google, you got problems coming. Had someone send me this article. They're getting clobbered. Had someone write me, one of our community members, lives in Romania. She's a Texan. She just said, man, it never stops snowing here. What's going on? So, yeah. Last thing I want to bring out here. This is important. This is CBS News. Venture capitalist. AI will displace 40% of the world jobs as soon as 15 years. Now, folks, you're talking about displacing about approximately 2 billion workers worldwide. And here's the other thing. In all of the new yearly reports, the 10K reports coming out with publicly traded companies in technology, and many of them that rely on technology, they're now putting a clause under their risk factors. Now, any of you investors, when you get your annual reports, if you own stock in these companies, you look into the risk factors. What's the potential litigation liabilities going down the road? They're all adding now that AI may in fact be a liability. Wow. Yeah. Amazing, isn't it? This is the changing reality we're living in. And it seems to be accelerating. I had a recent discussion with an individual who's pretty smart in this area. They live on the West Coast, and we used to see technology back in the day when Dell Computers, Gateway, Compaq, HP, all the computer manufacturers back in the day. And it was built in that technology would begin to double itself. Initially it was like every 20 years. Then it got down to every 3 years. And at the rate right now, it's almost becoming incalculable, the rate of how technology is advancing. The computers. You're finding out where, you thought you had all the memory you would ever need and the storage capacity. And now you're finding out that not even 5 terabytes is good. There soon will have petabyte storage drives, because eventually we're going to become, if something cataclysmic doesn't happen, our youth are going to become zombies almost overnight by virtual reality. And then when you begin to see that the mass layoffs are taking place, and that where you're going to have idle humans, what are they going to do? Virtual reality provides an easy escape. All you have to do is really keep them fed, keep a roof over their head to a degree, and you can pacify them. Sounds like a prisoner to me. It's serious. All right. So I've been saying this, so let's get on with it. Let's see what Ariel has to say. And we can put all this together. I'm not saying that Ariel is the real deal. This could be a figment of someone's imagination. Who knows? But I find it enough relevancy in any book I've studied on history that if I can find commonality, something that resonates, then to me, I can accept that there's a possibility of it. So the language barrier, we start in chapter 4. This is Matilda O'Donnell, McElroy. She was the nurse and the interface. And apparently the Space Command, we do have specific people that are called interfaces. That's what they do. They interface with many of the alien species that we know of, because that's how they talk. Anyway, she says, after I explained what I thought were the reasons for the no answers to the intelligent agents, there was a great deal of upset and turmoil. A very heated discussion took place between some of the intelligent officers, military officials, psychologists, and language interpreters. This lasted for several hours. It was finally decided that I should be allowed to be continued to interview the alien, provided that I could get a satisfactory answer from her to the following questions. Yeah, we know how that works. Question. What assurance or proof do you require from us that will make you feel safe enough to answer our questions? I mean, Planet Spango was back then. You got these people in high bureaucratic positions. They're idiots. Anyway, the answer. She only speaks. Only she hears. Only she questions. No others. Must learn, know, understand. This is Matilda. When I returned from the interview room to report the alien's response to this question, I received a grim and skeptical reception from the assembled intelligence agents and military personnel. They could not understand what the alien meant by this. I admitted that I couldn't really understand what she meant either, but I was doing the best I could to articulate her telepathic intentions. I told the officials that perhaps the communication problem had to do with my inability to understand the telepathic language of the alien clearly enough to be satisfactory. I was so discouraged at that point, I almost felt like giving up. Think about it, symbols, not the English language. So many people, I swear, have this attitude that, well, if they're not speaking English, how in the world do they call themselves intelligent? And now there was even more arguments than before. I was sure I was going to be removed from my position. in spite of the fact that the alien refused to communicate with anyone else, or that no one else had been found who could communicate with her. Fortunately, a very clever fellow by the name of John Newell, who was a Japanese language specialist from the Navy, had an explanation and a solution to the problem. He explained that, first, the problem had very little to do with the inability of the alien to communicate. It had more to do with her unwillingness to communicate with anyone other than myself. Second, in order for any clear, comprehensive communication to happen, both parties needed to understand and communicate through a common language. Yeah, that does help, doesn't it? Words and symbols in language convey very precise concepts and meanings. He said that the Japanese people have a lot of I said hominins, in their language, which caused a lot of confusion in the day-to-day communication. They solved this problem by using standard Chinese characters to write down the exact meaning of the word they're using. And we have the same thing today, love. Well, it's homogeneous, and, I love ice cream, love my wife, I love my dog, I love yeah. So, to clear this matter up for them, without a defined nomenclature, communication was not possible beyond the rudimentary understanding between men and dogs, or between two small children. The lack of a common vocabulary of clearly defined words that all parties can use fluently was the limiting factor in communication between all people, groups, or nations. Therefore, he suggested that there were only two choices. I had to learn to speak the language of the alien, or the alien had to learn to speak English. Damn, took them all that time to figure that out. Factually, only one choice was possible, that I persuade Ariel to learn English, and that I teach it to her with the guidance of the language specialist. No one had any objection to trying this approach, as there was no other suggestions. The language specialist suggested that I take several children's books and a basic reading primer and grammar text with me into the interview room. The plan was that I would sit next to the alien and read aloud to her from the books, while pointing to the text I was reading with my finger so that she could follow along. The theory was that the alien could eventually be taught to read, just as a child is taught to read by word and sound association with the written word, as well as instructions in fundamental grammar. They all assumed, I think, that if the alien was intelligent enough to communicate with me telepathically and fly a spacecraft across the galaxy, that she could probably learn to speak a language as quickly as a 5-year-old or faster. I returned to the interview room and proposed this idea to Ariel. She did not object to learning the language, although she did not make any commitment to answer questions either. No one else had a better idea, so we went ahead. Chapter 5. I began the reading lessons with the first pages of a school book that had been used to teach pioneer children in the 1800s in the frontier of America. It is called the McGuffey's Electric Reader, the primer through 6th grade. In fact, if you ever get a copy of this, you can go online and get one. It's so advanced. Most, and I mean this when I'm saying this, high school seniors graduating couldn't pass the test. Yeah. Since I'm a nurse and not a teacher, the language expert who gave me the books also gave me an extensive briefing, a course that took an entire day, on how to use the books to teach the alien. He said the reason he chose these particular books was because the original 1836 version of these books was used for 3/4 of a century to teach about 4/5 of all American school children how to read. No other book ever had so much influence over American children for so long. Think about that, folks. And they did away with it. I wonder why. McGuffey's educational course begins in the primer by presenting the letters of the alphabet to be memorized in sequence. Children were then taught step by step to use the building blocks of the language to form and pronounce words using the phonetic method, which involves teaching children to connect sound with letters. Each lesson begins with a study of words used in the reading exercise and with markings to show the correct pronunciation for each word. I discovered that the stories in the first and second readers pictured children in their relationship with family members, teachers, friends, and animals. The third and fourth and fifth and sixth readers expanded on those ideas. One of the stories I remember was The Widow and the Merchant. It's kind of a morality tale about a merchant who befriends a widow in need. Later, when the widow proves herself to be honest, the merchant gives her a nice gift. The book do not necessarily teach you to believe that charity is expected only of wealthy people, though. We all know that generosity is a virtue that should be practiced by everyone. Gee, you didn't have a religion for that, did you? All of the stories were very wholesome, and they gave a very good explanation to illustrate virtues like honesty, charity, thrift, hard work, courage, patriotism, reverence for God, the respect for parents. Personally, I would recommend this book to anyone. I also discovered that the vocabulary used in the book was very advanced compared to the relatively limited number of words people use commonly in our modern age. And this is a very important point, folks. We're using less words. We're regressing, where our nomenclature of our vocabulary is becoming lesser and lesser. It's very sad. Anyway, I continue. I think that we have lost a lot of our own language since our founding fathers wrote the Declaration of Independence over 200 years ago. As instructed, I sat next to Ariel in the interview room, reading aloud to her from each successive book in the series of McGuffey's Readers. Each of the books had excellent, simple illustrations of stories and subjects being taught, although they were very outdated by today's standards. Nevertheless, Ariel seemed to understand and absorbed every letter, sound, syllable, and meaning as we progressed. We continued this process for 14 hours a day for 3 consecutive days without interruption, except for a few meals and rest breaks on my part. Ariel did not take breaks for anything. She did not sleep. Instead, she remained sitting in the overstuffed chair in the interview room, reviewing the lessons that we had already covered. When I returned each morning to begin where we left off, she had already memorized the previous lessons and was well into the next pages. This pattern continued to accelerate until it became pointless for me to continue to reading to her. Although Ariel did not have a mouth to speak with, she was now able to think at me. I thought that's very interesting, at me in English. At the end of these lessons, Ariel was able to read and study by herself. I showed her how to use a dictionary to look up new words she encountered. Ariel consulted the dictionary continually after that. From then on, my job was acting as a courier for her, requesting the reference books be brought to her in a steady stream. Next, Mr. Newell brought in a set of Encyclopedia Britannica. Ariel especially enjoyed this because it had lots of pictures. After that, she requested many more books and reference books with photographs and drawings because it was much easier to understand the meaning if she could see a picture of the thing she was studying. Over the next 6 days, books were brought in from libraries all over the country. I presume because it wasn't more than a few days before, she had read through several hundred of them. She studied every subject I could imagine and many other very technical things I never wanted to know anything about, like astronomy, metallurgy, engineering, mathematics, various technical manuals, and so forth. Later, she began to read fiction books, novels, poetry, the classics of literature. Ariel also asked to read a great many books on subjects of the humanities, especially history. I think she must have had read at least 50 books about human history and archaeology. Of course, I made sure that she received a copy of the Holy Bible also, which she read from cover to cover without comment or questions. Although I continued to stay with Ariel for 12 to 14 hours a day, most of that time during the following week had been spent without much communication between us, except for an occasional question she asked me. The questions were usually meant to give her a sense of context or clarify something in the books she was reading. Oddly, Ariel told me that her favorite books are Alice in Wonderland. Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. There you go. Don Quixote and 1001 Nights. She said the authors of these stories showed that it is more important to have great spirit and imagination than great skill or power. Hello, all you empaths. Hello, all you intuitives. You've been looking for a home. This is what we're talking about. It's more important, folks, to have a great spirit and imagination than all the great skills, the thousands of hours, and power. Oh, can you imagine? R. Wayne Steiger without an imagination? Holy cripe. I digress. I could not answer a lot of her questions, so I consulted with the people in outer rooms for answers. Most of these had to do with technical and scientific things. A few of her questions were about the humanities. The depth of complex understanding and the subtlety of her questions showed that she had a very penetrating intellect. Personally, I think she already knew a lot more about the culture and history of Earth than she was willing to admit when we started. I would soon discover how much more. All right, folks. Boy, that is perfect timing, isn't it? So there you go. Pretty cool stuff, isn't it? Whether it's true or not, but hey, it adds to each and every one of you. Every time you hear something that's new, that's titillating, that's different, that's stimulating, it triggers. And the more that we can get these synaptic pathways to start triggering, to start building, and start stimulating that pineal gland, get it going, it's going to send their hormone, and that's the word that just came to me. It sends out like a hormone to the other parts of the brain. Remember, it's the small things that are the most powerful. So, anyway, there we go. I hope you've had fun on this. I'm enjoying it. Thank you for bringing your essence, your energy, adding to mine. You enrich my life, and I hope that I sow back into yours, and we challenge each other. Okay, so who's putting the high pitch? Yeah. That didn't feel very good. It's like someone sitting at the switchboard and says, oh, well, let's give them a little jolt of this. Anyway, join me tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific time, for the Steiger Perspective over in the Artist First Network. We're going to talk about Planet Spango because it's crazy out there, folks. Just flat out crazy. And, well, thank you, Brad. You're just the best. I appreciate all of you. Thank you, moderators. You guys, someone read earlier that the moderators in this group are the best. Let me tell you what. The spirit picks them. So they're great people. And all of you all are. I appreciate every one of you. If I can just say this, we're growing. We're learning, and none of us are perfect, baby. We're perfect in the spiritual sense of how we are created. We were there at the very beginning. A spirit can't be incorruptible. We'll get into that later. But the point is, you're beautiful. Many of you struggle with that. And I know. The voice inside sometimes is louder in its criticism than its praise. I get that. And it can be a struggle. At times you just, sometimes you just feel like crying. It's all right. Go ahead and cry. It's an energy. And then realize that a journey of a mile starts with one step. And step is considered to be, let's say, 3 feet. Before you know it, you've walked that mile and one more. You're doing okay. You really are. Someone needs to hear this. I don't know, but I'm just telling you, you're doing okay. And hug yourself. It's okay. So march on. We will rock you. There we go. It's rock and roll, folks. I'm telling you what. So have a nice alternate reality today. And I will see those who can tune in tonight. If not, we'll see you tomorrow at this time. And we'll have some more fun. And I hope this is fun. It's got to be fun. It's fun for me. So anyway, that's my intent. You're beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for enriching my life and everyone else's here. You're the best. And we'll see you later. All right. Be good.